Hello and welcome. My name is Lizzie. I run Elizabeth Harris Wedding Cakes. I design and make luxury wedding cakes. I absolutely love it. I'm baking all the time, but more and more people are asking for vegan cakes, gluten-free cakes. So I've done quite a lot of recipe testing and trying to develop more vegan bakes to cater for people. So I'm going to show you a recipe today. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's triple chocolate brownies. Now, I make triple chocolate brownies normally, non-vegan obviously, and they're gorgeous, they're really fudgy, they're really moist. People always comment on how delicious they are. So I wanted to try and replicate that in a vegan version. Now obviously I can't use any milk, any eggs or any butter, or I can't use normal chocolate. So I've substituted them and I've tweaked around and played a little bit, and this recipe is gorgeous. It gives you that fudgy texture of a brownie, it doesn't compromise on flavour, and it's just delicious. My husband and my kids have both thoroughly recipe tested this and have given it the seal of approval, so I hope you like it too. It's triple chocolate brownies, like I've said. The ingredients we're going to be using today, we're going to use castor sugar, plain flour, we're going to use good quality vanilla extract. You want to buy the best quality ingredients that you can. It does make a difference, especially with your vanilla extract. So don't buy vanilla essence, it's not the same thing. You want to buy extract, not essence. Okay, I'm going to be using almond milk, and I'm going to be using sunflower oil and cocoa powder. The last ingredient we're going to use is our vegan chocolate. Vegan chocolate is a bit of a different taste. There's no two ways about it. It doesn't taste the same. Some brands are nicer than others, so it's worth, but just buy a couple of different ones and see what you like, which one's your favourite. Okay, these ones are from Tesco, but you can get different varieties in different supermarkets. So maybe buy a couple and see which one you like the best. Okay, so let's get stuck into the recipe. So I'm making these brownies in a 20 centimetre by 20 centimetre tin. So the first thing I need to do is line my tin. Just with baking paper. I'm not actually even going to bother greasing my tin with butter. I don't want to use any butter in this recipe. I could use oil, but because this mixture, once it's ready, is quite loose and fluid, it will spread the baking paper out. So I'm just going to push it in, give it a little scrumple, like that. And that is absolutely fine. Okay, so I've got my baking tin lined there. I'm going to set that to the side. I have preheated my oven to 160 degrees. So my oven is a fan assisted oven. If you're not using a fan oven, I will put it up to between 170 and 180, but in the fan, it's got that extra boost, so I've put it at 160. Okay. Another great thing about this recipe is you don't need any fancy equipment. I've got 3 mixing bowls, some scales. If you've got digital scales, use them. You do want precision in baking, so digital scales help. And I've got a microwave to melt my chocolate in. I don't need a fancy mixer, I don't need any attachments, just some really easy, accessible equipment. Okay, so I'm gonna weigh out my dry ingredients first. I'm just gonna turn on my scales, pop my big bowl on there and change that to grams. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab a sieve. Now, lots of flour that you buy nowadays is already pre-sieved, but I do have a bit of a habit of still always sifting all my ingredients through anyway. So I've got 140 grams of plain flour. Zero that, keeps wanting to go up, breaks this bowl so heavy. So 140 grams of plain flour first, a little bit much there. Okay, 140 grams of plain flour. On top of that is going to go 20 grams of cocoa powder. This one is a finest version. So this one's Tesco's Finest. But like I say, just buy the best quality ingredients that you can. So there's my 20 grams of cocoa powder on top of that. I'll sift those through. And then I'll add in 200 grams of castor sugar. So make sure you always zero back off your scales. So 200 grams is going in here. Nearly there. Oh, there we go, exactly 200. Okay, so I've got that all in. Now, I'm just going to give that, just with a whisk, a little mix to make sure it's all nicely incorporated. I haven't got any lumps of sugar or anything. All nicely mixed in. Okay, so there's my dry ingredients in there. So I just set that to the side. The next thing I'm going to weigh out are my wet ingredients. So I've got my sunflower oil, I've got my milk, and I've got my dark chocolate, my almond milk that is. Now I've already gone ahead and put 80 millilitres of sunflower oil in here, and I'm going to add my almond milk on top of that. I've used sunflower oil for a couple of reasons. One, it's completely flavourless. So I don't want to add olive oil, a little bit too rich and too much flavour, or groundnut, because that will change the taste. So you want to just use a flavourless oil. So I could use sunflower oil or I could use vegetable oil. Either will work great. So I've got 80 ml of my sunflower oil in there, and then I'm going to add in on top of this 240 millilitres of almond milk. Ooh. Just be a bit careful, it's easy to be a bit too heavy-handed when you're pouring this. 232, there we go, 240 exactly, brilliant. Okay, I'm going to add a teaspoon of my vanilla extract. See that here? 1 teaspoon, and just give all that a little mix. Set that to the side. Okay, so I'm actually going to get all my ingredients ready before I incorporate them. So I also want 200 grams of dark chocolate. So these come in 100 grams packs. I'm just going to break them up. Doesn't need to be perfect. Can just be, I actually find it easier to break inside the packet. And then as soon as I open it, half the work's done for me. There we go, so there's 100. 200. Now you can either melt this in a microwave, or you can melt it in a bain-marie, which is just a saucepan with a little bit of water in the bottom and a glass bowl sat inside it and gently melted. So, but it takes a little bit longer. You can do it either way, no problem. But for today, I'm just going to melt this in the microwave. So, chocolate burns quite easily. So if I was to put that in the microwave for 2 minutes straight, I would no doubt burn it, not be able to use it and have to replace it. So I'm only going to do 20 to 30 second blasts, take it out, give it a stir. You want to stir it to make sure it melts nice and evenly. So don't give it any longer than 30 seconds, okay? So it's had 25 seconds there. Take it out, and you can see it's not melted that much, but it does need a little stir around, and back in it goes. Okay, so another 30 seconds. We're also going to use in this recipe some milk chocolate and some white chocolate. This is what gives us the triple chocolate bit in the recipe. So I've got my dark chocolate, which is going to mix into the dry and the liquid, and then we've got our milk chocolate and our white chocolate that we're going to cut into chunks, and we're going to pop it in at the end, stir it through gently before we pop it in the oven. And that is a real game changer. You get, once they're cooked, you just get these little lumps of gorgeous chocolate running throughout the brownie. So another little stir, it's starting to melt now. So I'll put it on for another 30 seconds. It will probably take overall a max of 2 minutes, but please don't just put it in for 2 minutes straight. It needs that stir every 30 seconds. So while that's melting, I'm just going to grab a board and I'm going to chop up our chocolate. Okay, so I've just got a white board here. Now we're going to use about 40 grams each. If you want to go a little bit more, you can. Oh, here we go, let's check this chocolate. We're not that far off now. I can see as I stir, the bottom is completely melted and the top just needs a bit longer. Okay, so we're going to use 40 grams of milk and 40 grams of white. I'll just weigh this out. There we go, just over 40 for the milk. 37, give it a bit more for good measure. 43, there we go. So I've got my milk chocolate and my white chocolate here, which we're just going to chop up. It doesn't have to be in tiny chunks, it can be bigger chunks if you like. I wouldn't put whole pieces in there, that's a bit too big, but you can just rough chop it. Let's have a look. Oh yeah. So vegan chocolate, although it does taste a bit different, it melts exactly the same as normal chocolate. Okay, you still get that really silky looking melted chocolate, as you can see here. I'm going to put it in for another 20 seconds. The closer you get to it being completely melted, the less time you want to put it in for, because it will turn and burn quickly. So I'm only going to put this in for 20 seconds. And I'm just going to rough chop up my chocolate chunks. I find it easiest to go one way, all the way down, line my chocolate up, and then instead of trying to turn the chocolate around, just whiz the board around and go the other way. I'll let that chocolate sit there for a minute, and I think it will probably be fully melted when I pull it out. So like I said, it doesn't have to be tiny chunks. It can be a bit bigger if you want them to. You can have some smaller, some bigger. It's entirely up to yourselves. Okay, so I've got there my chocolate chunks ready for in a minute. Ooh, lovely. And here I've got my dark chocolate, which is looking delicious. Okay, so there's still some very tiny bits, but if I just leave it there whilst I mix up my dry and my wet ingredients here, that will be melted. So got my dry ingredients here, and in here I've got my vanilla extract, my sunflower oil and my almond milk, and I'm just literally going to pour them using the wooden spoon. In fact, we'll go with the whisk first to make sure we don't get any lumps. I'm going to pour them straight in, no messing about there, and give it a little whisk. Okay, so you can see here, you see that okay? So you see here, we're starting to get this like light chocolate mixture. You want to make sure all of the flour has been well mixed in. You don't want any lumps. As soon as it's incorporated, stop mixing. You don't want to beat out any air, okay? And then we're going to fold in our dark chocolate. Now, I don't like to waste anything. So if you've got a spatula, grab a spatula and pour in that dark chocolate, getting everything out of the bowl. I like to make sure I've got it all out. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's set that to the side there, and I'm just going to fold in my dark chocolate. Oh, it looks really good. Okay, so it's quite a loose mixture. Fold it all in, and then lastly, I'm going to pop in those chocolate chunks. So get them all in there, and then again, just fold till it's evenly combined. Let me try and show you this. Absolutely delicious. It's going to be that oozy brownie, what you're used to in non-vegan, but in a delicious vegan form. So let's get this and pour it into our tin. Again, I'll be getting that spatula back out, don't want to waste any. So get it all in there. And because the mixture is so liquidy, it will naturally push itself all over the bottom of your lined pan. I'm just going to get that. There we go. Don't want to waste any mixture. So like I said before, my oven is preheated to 160, it's a fan oven. These are going to need to go in for between 25 to 30 minutes. And then once they come out, they'll need to sit and rest so they can just set up a bit, because you want them to be just slightly wobbly when they come out. So making sure I get absolutely all of that mixture off. And then if you need to, grab a spoon and just push it into the corners. But to be honest, it does most of the work for you. It's not like with a regular sponge mix where you'd be like smoothing it over, trying to get it all flat. With this one, it pretty much does it. So there we go. We have got our vegan triple chocolate brownies going into the oven for 25 to 30 minutes. So I will show you as soon as I get these out. Hi and welcome back. So my brownies that smell amazing have just come out of the oven. Just going to try and, they've literally come out about 30 seconds ago. They took, so I said they'd take between 25 to 30 minutes in a fan oven at 160. These took 27 minutes exactly, and then I pulled them out. So if I can try and show you, they've got that really nice like crinkly top that brownies have. And if I touch it, there's still a little bit of movement underneath. So obviously I don't want to press hard on it. Now, we want them to cool on a wire rack, but we don't want to take them out immediately because you have still got that slight wobble where they're still setting up, and you want them to be moist on the inside. You don't want them to be too like sponge cake like. These are brownies. You want them to have that really moist texture. So I'm going to leave these in the tin for half an hour, and then I'm going to take them out of the tin and put them directly on this cooling wire and leave them for a couple of hours. Now, leave them for a good few hours. Don't be tempted to cut into them after like an hour, because you really want them to set up and get a really good texture. Now, these, ta-da, were ones I made yesterday. So these came out of the oven, cooled in the tin for half an hour, then cooled on the tray, on the wire tray for a couple of hours, and then I put them in a tin overnight. You can put them in the fridge if you want, you don't have to. Now, if I just pick one of these up, they are absolutely delicious. They've got that really moist, really like, it's just gorgeous centre. They're delicious. They've got the chunks in, so if you can see the little white, you pick one up there, you can see a little white chocolate chunk on the corner there. They've got the milk chocolate chunks in. They've got that really fudgy brownie texture, and they're vegan and they are delicious. Now, you can serve these as whole pieces like this, or if you wanted to make them a bit more fancy, you could serve them in smaller cubes. So if a 20 centimetre by 20 centimetre baking tin will get you 16 quite large brownies. You could even cut each brownie into 4, and you could serve them like petit fours after dinner, or you could just serve them by themselves, a couple of raspberries for a little bit of tartness next to it. You could sprinkle on a little bit of icing sugar. Beautiful. And you could serve that. How happy would someone be if you said, would you like a vegan brownie? And you gave them that. These are absolutely delicious triple chocolate vegan brownies. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this recipe and I hope you have a go.